Welcome to Skinner and Chalmers' Weekly Roast. Today, old Bartholomew's origin story, The Skeleton in the Closet, Part 1 of 2.
Guten Morgen, dear listeners. Old Bartholomew here. Yes, the skeleton. Before you ask, no, I don't know how I'm talking either. It's a whole thing. We'll get to that. But first, let me say, it's been 233 years since I last had a proper conversation. And somehow I've ended up living with these two here. And I couldn't be more delighted.
Wait, Bartholomew, you're starting the episode. We usually do the cold open.
Change, Seymour. Change is the nature of nature.
I mean, you asked me to tell my origin story. I thought I should set the tone. Plus, you were busy burning toast in the little podcast kitchen side.
Since when do we even have a kitchen board in the recording room? And Bartholomew, he wasn't burning toast. He was attempting to make Aurora Borealis crumpets.
They were supposed to be luminous, the recipe said, golden brown, and I interpreted that creatively.
The smoke detector interpreted it as a fire hazard.
This is precisely the chaos I wake up to every morning, listeners. Welcome to your home, everyone.
Right. Yes. Welcome to another episode of Skinner and Chalmers' Weekly Roast. I'm Samer Skinner, joined as always by my wonderful husband Gary Chalmers, and today our very special guest, permanent resident, old Bartholomew.
The skeleton who lives in our house and occasionally judges my rock collection.
Your sedimentary samples are exquisite, Gary. I merely suggested better labeling.
You reorganized them by aesthetic appeal instead of geological era. It took me a week to get my old order back. Since then, there is a skeletons not allowed sign on the door.
Beauty is timeless. Geology is also timeless, I suppose. Perhaps I made an error, I admit.
Bartholomew, you should know already Gary is very peculiar about his rocks. But honestly, your creativity, this is why we love you, Bartholomew! You're 3 centuries old and still learning! Today, we're finally telling your origin story. How you went from German farmer to Egyptian archaeological find, our beloved household skeleton.
And hopefully answering the question our listeners have been asking for months. How is any of this possible?
Ah, yes, the eternal mystery. Spoiler alert, we still don't know. The journey, that's a tale worth telling.
But before we start, some few words from Seymour, DeZenzo and me. We have heard that some of you are looking for ways to support our podcast. Well, first and foremost, by listening. We do this for you and are grateful for the privilege of being a part of your lives.
Oh yes, believe me, that's support enough. We also appreciate every comment and every subscription to the channel. We especially love hearing from you out there. It's worth its weight in gold.
And for those who want to go above and beyond, we are trying to find a solution and are working on it behind the scenes with our producer. More details will follow later. But either way, don't feel pressured to do anything. The weekly roast is free for you and will remain so. Whether you are an active listener or a passive listener, we are happy to have each and every one of you on board.
Indeed. So, Bartholomew, back to our main topic today, your journey to the Skinner household. Let's start at the very beginning. You were born in 17-something.
The year 1731, January the 3rd, to be precise. In what you would now call Buyeu-Württemberg, but back then was just part of the Holy Roman Empire. A delightful patchwork of kingdoms and duchies that made absolutely no sense.
Germany didn't exist yet as a unified nation.
Correct. Germany didn't happen until 1871, by which point I'd been dead for 79 years. Missed the whole thing.
That's so strange to think about. You lived in a completely different version of Europe.
Oh, entirely. I grew up in a farming village, maybe 200 people. We worked the land for Graf von Sauerkraut. That's Earl, for you English speakers.
Lord Sauerkraut, you can't make this up. Was he a good lord?
Surprisingly, yes. The Graf was unusual. He believed in crop rotation, fair wages, letting us rest on Sundays. Revolutionary for the time. Most peasants were worked to death by 40. I made it to 61.
That's actually pretty good for the 700s.
Oh, excellent, even see more. Most of my childhood friends died of plague, smallpox, or what we called The bad meat incident of 1749.
I'm almost afraid to ask, honestly.
Suspicious sausages at the Harvest Festival. 17 people. Very tragic. I didn't eat pork for a decade afterward.
Okay, we're getting dark already.
Life was dark in the 18th century, say more. But we made do. I kept bees, grew barley and rye, maintained the Earl's orchards. Simple life, honest work. Never married, too busy with the bees.
You chose bees over companionship.
Bees are loyal, Gary. They don't argue about politics or steal your turnips. And most importantly, they're great for your garden and planet Earth. Also, I was rather shy. The only woman who showed interest was the blacksmith's daughter, and she could lift an anvil. I was a bit intimidated.
Oh, too bad, Bartholomew. I think a strong woman and a strong nature lover would have been perfect together. While you do the gardening, she could have created the tools for you. Imagine it.
Now that you say it, well, missed me chance slightly. Just a few hundred years. Happens to everyone. In any case, I lived a quiet, uneventful life until November 12th, 1792. I was 61, repairing the roof of the Earl's barn. Beautiful autumn day. Crisp air. I remember thinking, what a lovely afternoon to fix shingles.
And then? What happened?
And then I fell off the ladder, got a sudden heart attack, and broke my neck. The rest of it, well, I guess you can imagine. Hospitals weren't really a thing back, dude.
Whoa, just like that. That's horrible.
Just like that. One moment I'm hammering, the next I'm looking down at my own body lying in the hay, thinking, well, that's inconvenient. Very quick, very painless. Honestly, as deaths go, I can't complain. It was a beautiful day.
That's remarkably pragmatic.
I was 61. I'd had a good run. Better than the sausage victims, certainly.
So you died in Germany in 1792, but somehow you ended up in Egypt. That's thousands of miles away.
Now we get to the absurd part.
As opposed to the talking skeleton part.
Gary, the talking skeleton is merely unexplained. What happened next is genuinely ridiculous.
Ridiculous is fitting. So, I was buried in the village cemetery. Proper Christian burial, wooden coffin, small headstone. My few possessions went to the church, and there I rested, decomposing peacefully for about 2 years.
Peacefully decomposing. There's a phrase I never thought I'd hear. Maybe only from Roboskinner.
It's quite restful, actually. No bills, no responsibilities, just gradual molecular breakdown. But then in 1794, a man named Klaus Steinhauer arrived in the region.
Let me guess. A grave robber?
Unauthorized archaeological redistribution specialist? Thank you very much. Honestly, that's the fanciest way to say grave robber I've ever heard.
Klaus was an entrepreneur. He'd heard that British and French collectors were paying handsomely for European skeletal specimens, for medical schools, anatomy studies, that sort of thing. It was boom around that time of human history. So Klaus decided to supply the demand.
By digging up graves. By digging up you in particular.
Precisely. One foggy October night, he dug up several graves in our cemetery, including mine, packed us into large barrels, and labeled them pickled cabbage.
What? Pickled cabbage?
I know. They even dug up old Pickle Rick. The absurdity haunts me even now. There I was, jumbled together with 3 other skeletons, rolling around in a barrel that reeked of vinegar brine, on a wagon heading south toward the Mediterranean.
How did that possibly work as a cover story?
Well, Klaus's ship, the Sauerkraut Surprise, I kid you not, sailed from Hamburg toward Egypt. But here's where it gets truly ridiculous. Ottoman customs officials in Alexandria boarded the ship for a routine inspection.
Oh no.
Oh yes. They opened Klaus's barrels expecting cabbage and found, well, us, 4 human skeletons marinating in pickled juice.
How did he explain that? I mean, it was mislabeled and a bit suspicious traveling with 4 skeletons.
Klaus panicked and claimed we were ancient Germanic warrior relicts, that he was donating to Egyptian scholars as a gesture of international goodwill and cultural exchange.
That's the worst lie I've ever heard. And that's coming from me, Seymour Skinner, formerly known as Balthazar Max Sneasley.
And yet it worked. Unbelievable or.
Indeed unbelievable. I wouldn't have taken one word.
The Ottoman officials were so charmed by this supposed act of generosity that they threw Klaus a feast, gave him letters of commendation, and even helped him unload the barrels at a warehouse in Cairo.
That's just ridiculous.
Kind of. Klaus accepted their hospitality, made a great show of thanking them for their appreciation of European culture, and then promptly disappeared into the night, leaving us in that warehouse.
So you went from a German cemetery to Egyptian storage because of pickled cabbage and international fraud.
Exactly. The warehouse eventually collapsed during a sandstorm in 1803. I was buried under rubble and sand for the next, let me calculate, 186 years.
Until I, the great Gary Chalmers, found you.
Since when do you have that heroic title?
Since I decided we talked about medieval times and I thought it's fitting.
Okay, so Gary's part of the story is equally ridiculous. Tell them, honey.
I'm not proud of this, honestly, especially as a former university lecturer.
Oh, don't be modest, Gary. You broke international antiquities laws for me. That's romantic.
That's not. It wasn't romantic.
It was a little romantic.
I was 28 and academically reckless.
Still romantic, honey.
Fine, I will tell. So this was 1989. I'd just been hired as a lecturer in the geography department at Memetopia University after graduation. Young, eager, desperate to do actual fieldwork instead of teaching freshman geology to students who thought rocks were boring.
Rocks are never boring.
Thank you, Bartholomew. Anyway, the university had a partnership with an Egyptian research institute studying sediment layers in the Nile Delta. I volunteered for the summer excavation because I wanted adventure.
Young Gary wanted adventure? I love this. And be honest, not only adventure, also project so you can get citations in the geography field.
True. We were analyzing how the Nile's flood patterns changed over centuries by examining sediment cores. But during my third week there, I was digging a test pit in an old Ottoman-era warehouse district, and I hit something hard.
My skull.
Your skull. I carefully excavated around it and found a complete human skeleton buried under only about 60 centimeters of sediment.
That's not very deep, is it?
That's nothing according to Earth's history. For a site that supposedly dated back centuries, finding something that shallow meant it was relatively modern, geologically speaking. I was immediately intrigued. A European skeleton in Egypt barely buried. This was a mystery.
I was your mystery, Gary. I'm touched.
I documented everything, took sediment samples, started preliminary analysis. The bone density and DNA samples suggested European ancestry, which made no sense for that location. I wanted to study this properly.
But the excavation was ending.
Right, we were wrapping up in 2 weeks, and shipping official findings back to the university would take months of bureaucratic paperwork. I was frustrated, and then my friend Hassan, the project lead, saw how obsessed I was with this skeleton and said, "Jerry, just take it. Finish your research. Consider it a souvenir."
I was a souvenir. Isn't that lovely?
Gary, you smuggled a skeleton out of Egypt.
I didn't smuggle a skell. I've discreetly transported a skeleton.
You put me in a reinforced case labeled geological samples and teaching materials, and declared me at customs as educational equipment.
Which wasn't entirely a lie. Bones are technically geological materials at that stage of mineralization.
You bent the rules for science. That's the sexiest thing you've ever admitted.
Can we please move on?
I, for one, appreciate the international smuggling. Otherwise, I'd still be buried in rubble in Cairo.
So I brought the skeleton, you Bartholomew, back to my office at Memetopia University. I was going to do carbon dating, isotope analysis, write a paper about this mysterious European in Egypt. I was excited.
And then?
And then I got pulled into Dr. Pemberton's volcanic rock dating study and teaching 4 courses and committee meetings, and I forgot.
For 8 years.
For 8 years.
You put him in a closet and forgot about him for 8 years? Well, that's what I call having a skeleton in your closet.
It wasn't deliberate. The case was in the back of my office closet behind old lab coats and boxes of rock samples. Every semester I'd think I should get back to that skeleton project, and then midterms would happen.
I had quite a view of your organizational habits. Gary, very enlightening. Did you know you had 19 coffee mugs in that office?
You counted.
I had literally nothing else to do for 8 years.
What else did you see?
Well, I wasn't conscious yet, but the memories are peculiar. Like a very long, dark dream. I remember sounds, vibrations. Students arguing outside your door about grades. That one time you cried listening to a documentary about glaciers.
I did not cry.
Gary, you sobbed. Something about the beauty of ice core data.
Oh my God, that's so Gary!
Can we please get back to the story?
Of course. So, 1997, Gary transitions from academia to administration, becomes superintendent of schools, and has to clean out his office.
I found the case in the back of the closet and thought, I can't leave a skeleton in the university.
So you brought him home?
I brought him to my apartment in Memfield. I told myself I'd finally do the research, carbon dating analysis, write it up as a hobby project.
Spoiler, he did not do the research.
I got busy.
But Gary, why don't you tell the listeners why you even moved to Memfield?
Well, because of a certain someone in that room.
Indeed, Gary and I had been dating for about 6 months at that point, and things were getting serious, and Gary started moving in with me.
I brought some of my belongings over, books, clothes, rock collection.
And a mysterious case you said was geology equipment.
Well, technically.
It was a skeleton, Gary. That's not geology equipment.
Fossils are geology. Bones are proto-fossils.
I appreciate Gary's creative categorization of my remains.
So there was a skeleton in our guest room for 3 weeks, and I had no idea.
In my defense, I was very quiet.
You were. And then May 14th, 1997, Thursday evening, around 7:30.
The moment of my awakening. I remember it perfectly.
We were arguing about dinner.
You wanted pizza. I wanted a succulent Chinese meal.
It's a classic debate in our household.
I was in the case, in the dark guest room upstairs. And suddenly, I was aware, conscious. For the first time in 205 years, I could think.
What did it feel like?
Like waking from the deepest sleep imaginable. Like surfacing from underwater after being submerged for lifetimes. I was confused, disoriented. I tried to remember who I was. Slowly, memories returned. My life, my death, the journey in the barrel. But I had no idea where I was or how much time had passed.
And you could hear us arguing.
Yes. I heard Seymour say, Gary, we had Chinese yesterday. And Gary replied, we had Thai yesterday. That's different. And I thought, what is Thai food? Has cuisine evolved?
That must have been disorienting.
Enormously. I spent 3 days just listening, trying to understand this new world. I heard your conversations, the television, so many confusing sounds, explosions, music, people talking about stock markets, and the internet. I heard these peculiar disc-shaped robots bumping into furniture.
Don't insult the Roombas!
And I realized I was in some kind of advanced future. But I didn't know when. Could have been 50 years after my death. Could have been 500.
When did you decide to speak?
Sunday morning, May 18th. You were having coffee in the kitchen. I decided I needed to make contact. I didn't even know if I could speak. I had no lungs, no vocal cords, no tongue. But I tried. Said, excuse me, gentlemen, but could someone please let me out of this box?
And I screamed so hard.
You screamed so loudly. I heard something crash.
My coffee mug entire thing, all over the kitchen floor.
Because a skeleton was talking. In our house. A skeleton with a German accent. Gary, you know, I'm afraid of spooky, scary skeletons. Spooky, scary German skeletons.
I felt terrible. I said, oh dear, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to startle you. Which only made you scream more.
Because you apologized. Skeletons aren't supposed to apologize. They're supposed to be silent and dead.
Sonic came running over. He thought we were being murdered.
I heard someone knocking frantically, shouting, guys, are you okay?
And I had to yell back, we're fine. Just a talking skeleton situation.
Sonic paused for a solid 10 seconds and then yelled, "This is Memfield! That tracks!" and left.
I love this town.
But I was still terrified. Gary had to physically shield me.
I went upstairs and very carefully opened the case, and there was Bartholomew sitting up waving.
Hello, lovely home you have here. Apologies for the inconvenience, I said.
And I was hiding behind Gary like he was a bulletproof vest.
I asked, "Who are you? How are you talking?" And Bartholomew said,
I'm not entirely sure on either count, but I seem to be conscious, and I'm terribly confused about what year it is.
I told him it was 1997.
And I said, good heavens, I've been dead for 205 years.
And that's when I fainted.
You didn't faint.
I got lightheaded and sat down very quickly on the floor.
You fainted, Seymour. I watched it happen. Very graceful, though. You sort of crumpled like a Victorian lady.
I have anxiety about skeletons, okay? They're inherently spooky.
You live with a pet volcano that could erupt.
Krakatoa is cute. Skeletons are the universal symbol of death.
I am sitting right here. Besides, young folks use skulls as emojis for expressing coolness or something. Hard to get the young dudes.
You're different now. You're Bartholomew. Back then you were just bare bones.
It took about 2 hours to calm Seymour down. We talked, really talked. Bartholomew told us everything he remembered, his life, his death, waking up in our house. He was polite, intelligent, curious.
I asked if they had tea and a garden shovel.
You can't even drink tea. You don't have a stomach.
I know, but it seemed like the civilized thing to ask. You two looked so stressed.
Eventually, Seymour came out from behind me and sat at the table. We talked until midnight.
And by the end, Seymour offered me a room.
You needed somewhere to stay, and you were so nice.
That's how I became part of this household, by being polite and non-threatening.
And that's where we'll leave it for this week, listeners. The story of how a German farmer became an Egyptian archaeological find, and then our household skeleton.
But we haven't gotten to the best part yet. The mystery, the consciousness, the philosophy.
Patience, Seymour. Good stories take time. We wouldn't want to overwhelm our listeners with too much existential contemplation in one sitting. Next week, we'll dive into the real question: how is Bartholomew conscious at all? What makes objects in our house come alive? I mean, look at Mary Barron from Floats a Lot, your stupid living dolls, Seymour. Also, Bartholomew just gained consciousness as soon as he arrived in our house in Memfield. And what does a talking skeleton have to say about the nature of existence itself?
Spoiler alert, I have many thoughts. 233 years of death gives you perspective.
Plus, Bartholomew will share his gardening wisdom. February tips for all you listeners with green thumbs.
Or bony finger joints in my case.
So join us next week for part 2 of The Skeleton in the Closet.
Until then, I'm Seymour Skinner.
Gary Chalmers.
And old Bartholomew, reminding you that sometimes the best conversations happen over midnight coffee with a confused skeleton.
Stay curious, stay kind, and we'll see you next week.
Oh, and feel free to share any thoughts or ideas. What's causing this consciousness thing around Seymour?
Maybe because I'm just too dashing to miss noticing that as an object without soul.
Keep on dreaming.
Well, at least I've tried. Until next week. Bye.
Bye. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.